Hello friends, James Stevenson back with today's hot topic, advertising. Should Tesla be doing more of it? I sent out a tweet yesterday with my take, and I got a reply from Elon with his reaction. Let's talk about that today after I check in with my co-host Loki. More advertising was mostly Loki's idea, but having convinced me of it, he left me to do all the work, as usual. So here's what I posted yesterday on X, and then after I expand this tweet out so we can read all of it, I'm just going to read the thing to you. I organized my thoughts here pretty logically, I think. So rather than do my usual paraphrase and bring out only the high notes, I'll just read you the thing like it's an audiobook that the author decided to voice. So I said, although Tesla is selling significantly more cars every year and taking substantial market share, competitors still account for more than 90% of all new car sales. I just called it 90, folks. It's more like 97%, but that is not that degree of specificity is not needed for the point of this thread to become apparent. Up until recently, hashtag Tesla has been a fairly low-volume automaker, able to design and manufacture products so desirable that word-of-mouth advertising alone was sufficient to grow sales at greater than 50% per year. If you go back over a long period of time, you can see Tesla is still ahead of the 50% growth rate over the past 4 or 5 years. I made a few videos and charts about that you can go check out. Tesla's master plan since the beginning has been to make its cars more and more affordable over time, a strategy that has proven successful. But making products people love and reducing their prices can only drive buyer interest so far if awareness is low. I bolded awareness there. That's the point of this thread, is awareness is low. Ipsos research published last week by Drive Tesla Canada revealed exactly how severe a problem awareness is for Tesla. 80% of Americans surveyed were unaware how affordable Teslas are today. Now, that number is a little bit fuddy. And when I say fuddy, I need to explain for some of you. FUD is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's the kind of thing that happens a lot when people write articles about Tesla. They're trying to get clicks on their article. They want people to read it, so they headline it something eye-catching or impressive or scary or whatever. So this number, as Holmar's blog pointed out, excludes people who said that they had heard about it, but they weren't familiar. Okay, well, so if you count them, then instead of it being 80% who are unaware, it's more like 60% or, 53% or something. Okay, well, it's still a big number, right? You still have about half your market untapped. Or at least half your market is still untapped, is the point. It's a mistake to believe that anytime you cut prices, consumers are instantly notified about it, like magic. Tesla early adopters' social circles have finite reach. You can have a referral program, and that's great, but Tesla has had a referral program for a long time, for maybe a decade now. And the people who were the biggest fans of Tesla bought their cars more than 5 years ago, and they've probably already talked the ear off of anybody who's in their social circle about Tesla a long time ago, right? So every year Tesla's producing more and more vehicles. Every year it becomes important for that circle of awareness to expand, to keep up with the amount being produced, right? And lower prices cannot motivate buyers who falsely believe they can't afford to buy the product. There's still a lot of people out there who think Teslas cost $100,000 each, right? They don't even bother researching or, going to a Tesla sales and service center asking if they can test drive one because they think it's out of their reach. They think there's no way they could afford to buy a Tesla. Teslas are expensive. During the conference call and on many prior occasions, Elon has explained that it's a waste of time to buy ads attempting to make people who already want to buy the product want it more if they still won't be able to afford to buy it. That's true, but incomplete, because it describes only one of the 8 groups into which people can be artificially divided across the 3 binary conditions of desirability. So some people want a Tesla and some people don't. Affordability, some people can afford to buy a Tesla and some people can't. And awareness, some people know that they can afford to buy a Tesla and other people don't. So there was a little confusion in the replies about what I meant by awareness. I meant the same thing that the poll meant. Are you aware how affordable Teslas are today after they've been cutting prices this year, right? And I thought an infographic would aid this discussion, so I created a Venn diagram to illustrate my point. I'll make this big for you. That fits the screen okay. And I'll just talk you around these bubbles. So, product desirability, this yellow bubble represents people who do want to buy a Tesla. And the entire area outside the yellow bubble represents people who do not want to buy a Tesla. Same idea with affordability. The people inside the blue bubble here can afford to buy a Tesla, and anything outside the blue bubble is people who cannot afford to buy a Tesla. Then you have the awareness bubble over here. Why is the awareness bubble the smallest bubble? Because of that poll, right? It's telling us that only 20% of Americans are aware of how affordable Teslas are, right? So this is taking up a small portion of the screen because only 20% of Americans know what the current price of a Tesla is, right? All right, so it may not look like there are 8 sections here, but there are, and I'll walk you through them really fast. There's the negative space in white, which I have labeled, if you're outside all 3 bubbles, these are people who don't want to buy a Tesla. They don't know they can't afford. That's a very silly sentence, but it's saying if the answer is no to every one of these bubbles, they don't want a Tesla, they can't afford one, and they aren't aware what the price is, then that puts them outside all 3 bubbles. There are people who fall into that category, of course, right? Then, are there 7 more? Yes, there are. There's 1. I'll go from the outside in. Are there 7 more? Yes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more groups. And I guess the easier way to have done that would have been to just show you how many colored rectangles there are surrounding the infographic. Okay, so let's talk through those. Product desirability here. These are people who don't know they would want to buy a Tesla. They can't afford. So it won't help them. They won't magically be able to buy a Tesla, and they don't want to buy one anyway. Like, I know as Tesla fans, it shocks us to see how many people don't want to buy a Tesla because we think it's the obvious choice. You definitely should buy one. Why don't you want to buy a Tesla? Are you crazy? No, if you look at sales, more than 90% of car buyers are buying some competing brand, which shouldn't be that big of a surprise, right? There's way more than 9 other competitors out there, competing brands. There's dozens and dozens of brands globally for people to choose from, right? It makes complete sense that a small minority of people are buying Teslas. All right, what about this orange section here? I talk about this in the thread. This is the section that Elon is worried about when he explains to you that making the product more desirable won't help you sell more if the people can't afford to buy one, right? Well, there's a lot of people who are in that group. It's a perfectly valid point that Elon is making. There are lots of people who know they can't afford to buy the Tesla they want. And this graphic illustrates what fraction of people that is. It's way more people in this group than there are people buying Teslas. That's a significant population, or it's a significant subset of the population, right? Then we have people who don't want to buy a Tesla. They know they can't afford. That's what's in this awareness bubble. They're aware what the price is for a Tesla, but they don't want one. They're outside the product desirability bubble, and they can't afford one. They're outside the affordability bubble in the pink area here. Okay, what about this purple section? What's going on here? These are people who know they can afford a Tesla, but just don't want one. So they're aware that they could be buying a Model 3 for $31,000 in the U.S. after the tax credit, or a Model Y for about $35,000, depending on what state you're in. Some states it's less expensive than that. They just would prefer to buy some other vehicle, right? Then they're dwarfed by the number of people in the blue here who still wouldn't want a Tesla even if they knew they could afford one, right? You're not going to convince absolutely everyone to go buy a Tesla just by making them aware what the current price is. Most of those people are still going to buy some other brand. But the green section is the one that is the purpose of making this visualization at all. Who's in the green? People who would want to buy a Tesla if they were aware they could afford one. These are the people the advertising is for. Like, you're going to hit people in all 8 segments with advertising. If you do advertising, most of the people who hear the message aren't going to buy a Tesla, but it'll be worth it to let the people in the green section know that they can afford to buy a Tesla, because then they will. And then instead of only selling this many, the little rounded off triangular section in the middle, somebody tell me if you know what the name is for that shape in geometry. These are the people who buy Teslas because they want one and they know they can afford to buy it. Excuse me. I'll say that again. These are people who buy Teslas because they know they can afford to buy it and they want to, so they do. So that's these people. But look how many more people could be in this group, right? This whole green section. You'll never get rid of all of it. Because you'll never be able to make them all aware, right? They won't be able to get into this awareness bubble, but you can make the awareness bubble bigger. And the bigger you make it, the farther into this green section you will chew, right? So you could double the size of the demand for Teslas without needing to make this awareness bubble a whole lot bigger, right? Just run some ads letting these people know they can afford to buy a Tesla. All right, I think I've hit that point enough. And you can see my notifications are back over 20 plus again because Elon replied. We'll get to that in just a second. All right, people in the orange section still won't be able to afford a Tesla, but people in the green section will be happy to learn that they can, and then they will. If awareness is currently only at 20%, advertising could double the size of the pink bubble, greatly increasing demand for Tesla vehicles at current prices among buyers who can afford them. The blue bubble can also move up and to the left if advertising successfully dispels the misinformation preventing them from buying a Tesla. Food for thought. Okay, so what am I talking about here? This affordability overlap with product desirability. There could be more overlap here, and the way to drive this up and to the left to increase the amount of overlap between affordability and product desirability is to find out why people who can afford to buy a Tesla don't want to, and address those concerns, because in some cases those concerns are easily dispelled. Some of these people think they can't take a Tesla through a car wash. Some of these people think that they would have to stop for hours at a time to charge their car if they wanted to go on a long trip. Um, some of these folks believe that EVs are worse for the environment than internal combustion engine vehicles are, right? There's a long list of misinformation believed by people in the blue bubble that account for why they aren't buying a Tesla. And more awareness is needed to drive the affordability up and to the left. More true, correct information about Teslas is needed to counter the FUD and the misinformation people have been fed and believe. Okay, next, can I hit the back button and still be where I want to be? Yes. Okay, so Elon replied, and Elon said, I said we would advertise. We are doing so at small scale, and we'll do so at larger scale as we figure out what works best. And of course, there are a lot of eyeballs on anything Elon Musk says because he's followed by hundreds of millions of people. So I was happy to get a reply from Elon, and I was happy to see it in the affirmative that Elon's plan is to go to a larger scale as they monitor and adjust what's working and not working about the small scale advertising efforts that are already underway. These are things like, I'll read you my reply. That's great news. I don't recall hearing about any Tesla ads, meaning commercials. I guess ads can be a lot more things than just commercials, but I should I should just keep reading. Aside from in Google search results and at one minor league baseball game in Buffalo, but I'm looking forward to seeing smart, informative, funny ads reaching larger audiences. So I think what's needed to reach a large audience of people who have believed misinformation about EVs in general or Tesla specifically are forms of advertising that will be viewed by many more people than what Tesla is using today. So Google search results, this is great. It's very effective to make sure that you have a share of voice, it's called, in the Google search results for people who are actively trying to find information about Tesla or Tesla products or EVs in general, right? So it's really good to see promoted or sponsored ads from Tesla popping up when you do Google searches. So that's great. The other stuff, a minor league baseball game in Buffalo, one game, they ran a commercial on the Jumbotron, and I think it was Gigafactory 2 Tesla employee day at the stadium, right? And that's the only reason they ran it. Other places, like there's been some billboard advertising in the airport in Tokyo. There are like random Tesla placements in public places. Okay, that's not doing very much to raise awareness though, right? Like one of them was at the mall at Millennia in Orlando, Florida. Okay, you just parked a Model Y inside the building. Most of the people who pass it passed 15 Teslas in the parking lot on their walk in to the mall, right? You're not giving them any more information than they already had with that. So I don't consider that to be an ad, even if it's helpful for promoting a brand image or, excitement about the product or whatever. There's not a lot of information being conveyed that way, apart from what the product is. So there you go. That's my video. Here we go. Philip.png is who brought up the Tokyo airport ads. So you can see some big screen TV ads is what I would call those. Those are not billboard size. Those are just, screens that most airports have these days that you can look at as you walk down a corridor. So, yeah, I said that's good. Every little bit helps, but those billboards probably won't do much to counter misinformation Americans or Europeans fell for. If you have to be in the airport in Tokyo to see those ads, I hope it goes without saying that only a tiny fraction of the global population is inside the corridors of the airport in Tokyo to be able to see those ads. And then here's the one inside the Mall at Millennia at, it's a big indoor area. There's a lot of premium brands being sold inside this mall, but, and this is an X, not a Y. Anyhow, so this this vehicle is one of the nearly $100,000 MSRP starting point vehicles Tesla sells. So it's not doing a lot to drive home the message of affordability, even if somewhere nearby there's information telling you how much you would have to pay to buy one of these. Which is why I said, okay, but how is that an ad, though? All right. And that's probably a pretty good place to end this video. So, do I hope Tesla runs more ads in a bigger way soon? Yes, I do. And while I'm here anyway, I may as well give away some more unsolicited advice, which is just hire the same exact people who were the creative team behind Apple's I'm a Mac and I'm a PC commercials. Just get them to do it. Get them extremely familiar with all the benefits of owning a Tesla, and then set them loose, making fun, memorable commercials that people enjoy watching and learn from. Right? Those ads were all very informative at their root, but people didn't feel like they were being sold a bill of goods watching them. They felt like they were being entertained. All right. And that's my video. Right, Loki? So if you've enjoyed today's video, click the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, why not go ahead and subscribe to my channel? It's free to do that on YouTube. It's free to click like on whatever platform you're watching this. But thank you to those who support me by joining my Patreon or on X or my YouTube channel, as my two executive producers, Kathy Kitchler and Rebellionaire.com did. And I'll see you in the next one.